today, and I'll do the second one tomorrow. I wanted to talk about President Trump's meeting with President Xi. But before I start, don't forget, guys, I've got a new channel, so I'll be very appreciative if you guys go and subscribe to that channel. The link is in the description. Make sure you subscribe and make sure you watch the other videos. There's a lot of videos on that new channel that you have not seen. I've been uploading it on there, and it looks like a lot of you have not subscribed to that channel, so you're not seeing it and you're not getting any notifications. So make sure you subscribe to the new channel and make sure you go and watch those videos. Now that's out the way, let's start with the show. So President Trump was in his best behavior when he went to China. I've never seen him this way. He's normally very rude and arrogant to his guests. For example, when the Japanese Prime Minister turned up, he started talking about Pearl Harbor, and every single president that turns up in the White House, Trump ends up embarrassing them really massively. I remember when Erdogan came in, and President Trump was like, "Oh, you're the one that did the regime change in Syria. You love regime change, don't you?" Or something along those lines. Absolutely, absolutely hilarious. Completely embarrassed him. But I think he does it to every single leader. And when he went to China, he was definitely on his best behavior. However, President Xi absolutely humiliated Trump and the United States. I don't think they realize how much they have been humiliated. President Xi basically said in front of President Trump's face and all of his delegation from the White House and business leaders, he said America is a declining power. Obviously he didn't say it in those words, but that's what he meant, because he quoted Theocles' trap. So what is this trap? Apologies, I haven't really got the pronunciation correct, or the word correct, mainly because this is the first time I'm hearing this. So I need to do some more research on it. But basically, this was basically going back all the way to Greek mythology, where it's basically talking about a rising power coming into a war with a falling power. So back in the day, you know, Athens was a rising power and the Spartans were a falling power. So the Spartans saw Athens as a threat. So instead of negotiating with them or finding an excuse to go to war with them, they basically started a war for no reason except they saw them as a rising power and they wanted to get rid of them before they become extremely powerful. And this has been there throughout history. Whenever there's a rising power, the existing power does not want to lose its seat, its hegemony. So they do everything they can to basically destroy that rising power. So the last time it happened was the British Empire. And as you know, Britain went to war in World War II with Germany. And many think that this World War II was about the Jews. It wasn't. It was basically Germany becoming a rising power at the time and Britain becoming a declining power. And they saw Germany as a major threat. Germans, the system that Germany was using was extremely effective. Their manufacturing was very good. They had loads of jobs everywhere, all over Germany. They were doing trade with pretty much rest of the world. They had a huge technological advantage compared to all of their neighbors. military advantage as well, and um, and the British saw that as a major threat. But I'm not going to go any further, guys, because I know there's a lot of people out there who are very sensitive about this subject. But I just want to say one thing, that the winners write the history books, and the Western propaganda, they can make anyone look evil. Just like they are making Iran look evil, just like they are making um, you know Russia evil. They can make anyone evil. They're saying Putin is evil. Saying Xi is evil. They're saying Saddam was evil. Bashar al-Assad was evil. Gaddafi was evil. Maduro was evil. Anyone that doesn't agree with them is apparently evil. So do you know what I'm getting at, guys? It's Western propaganda for you. You just cannot believe it. And you just cannot believe the history books and the stuff they teach you at school. They don't tell you the full story. Anyway, going back to this subject, whenever there's a rising power, you know, the existing power will do everything it can to stop it from becoming world hegemon. So this is what's happening. So she, in front of Trump's face, said that America is a losing power, or is a declining power. So so a lot of stupid MAGA people didn't understand what President Xi meant. So a lot of stupid MAGA people all over Twitter were saying, "Oh, this is such a great, you know, such a great, uh, trip by Trump. Trump, this is 5D chess by Trump. Trump is going to get some amazing deals from China. Blah blah blah." And I don't think many of the administration from Trump's admin actually understood what President Xi had said. Maybe they're not clever enough to understand. Who knows? But it seems like somebody told President Trump um, when he's in the hotel or something, because he sent this tweet. He sent this tweet out from his hotel room, and he just realized what President Xi had said. And in his tweet, he says, when President Xi elegantly referred to the United States as perhaps being a declining nation, he was referring to the tremendous damage we suffered during the 4 years of sleepy Joe Biden from the Biden administration. So he's basically blaming America's declining powers to Biden's, and he's calling him sleepy Joe Biden. But I've seen Trump sleep more than Joe Biden has ever done. Every one of his press conferences, I always see him like nodding off and falling asleep. And it's all over Twitter. You just have to go on Twitter and just put Trump asleep, and you will see, you know, at least 10 different occasions where he just falls asleep on these press conferences in the White House. So he's blaming Biden for calling the United States a declining power. He doesn't want to blame himself. And then also, President Xi has also said that I think he said basically, the illegal sanctions against Iran must stop, and I believe they said something along the lines of nuclear weapons must never be used. And along those lines, something I haven't seen the Chinese readout yet, but I've just seen someone mention it, and I have seen I think, was it Pepe Escobar talking about it. But anyway, I will have to double check that, guys. So I mean, all of this news I'm just getting now, so I have to do a little bit more research and find out exactly what was said and what was not said. But it sounds like Iran was mentioned because Trump is mentioning it in his tweet. And in his tweet, he says, the military decimation of Iran to be continued. that's what Trump says. So basically, he wants to carry on with the war in Iran, and I think it sounds like you know. So there's lots of chess pieces moving along, guys. So during the meeting with Trump, President Xi said that Taiwan is a red line, and I'm pretty sure I read somewhere they mentioned that the sanctions against Iran must end, and there must be no nuclear attack against Iran, and we want the whole region to be nuclear free. And when China says that, they usually mean the whole region should be nuclear free. That includes Israel and that includes Iran. I think that's what they meant. So they didn't really say Iran, should capitulate, should listen to whatever America said. No, China would never do that. End of the day, Iran is a very important ally to China, and China always checks their words very carefully before they say anything. So it looks like Trump got very angered by this statement by China. So I think he's lashing out. He's saying this is going to be the decimation of Iran to be continued. So obviously, when he goes back to United States, I think he's going to look to attack Iran again. And I think he will sell weapons to Taiwan. By the way, he's not mentioned anything about Taiwan, but he would have been a hero in China. He would have been an absolute hero. Let me show you this, guys. Um, yeah, this one. So some reporter asked him, "How was the talk, sir?" And Trump said, "Yes, very nice. China is awesome." And the journalist says, "Did you talk about Taiwan?" And Trump was silent. And another journalist says, "Did you talk about Taiwan, sir?" And Trump ignored him and was again very silent. So Trump would have been an absolute hero in China if he just responded to that journalist and said, Taiwan is a part of China and we believe in the one China principle. That's all he had to say. That's all he had to say. That, and he would have been a hero, absolute hero in China. Staying silent means, you know, obviously, there's some dodgy dealings going on. He doesn't want to say anything, or he doesn't want to admit anything. He doesn't want to deny anything. He wants to keep things basically, you know, 50-50. He's either one way or another. We might help, we might not help. We might give weapons, we might not give weapons. We might, join in a war, we might not join in a war. That kind of inconsistency. And President Xi did warn President Trump and his administration about Taiwan. He did say that, you know, Taiwan is a red line and the United States have to tread very carefully in Taiwan. One wrong move could lead to war along those lines, along those words, not exactly those words, but those kind of words. And again, he said it in front of Trump. And this graph tells you exactly who, who was the real leader in the room. Trump was very, very subdued. He was very subdued. He was him and everyone else. They were totally in awe of China and probably in shock because a lot of them have never flown to China for a long time. Maybe some of them flown over 10 years ago, but China's changed a lot in 10 years. I think the last trip a president turned up in China was Trump. That was 10 years ago. And yeah, United States presidents hardly visit, China. And the other president who visited China was Nixon. And I can't remember if any other presidents visited China, to be honest. I'll have to double check. So let's look at this graph. Trump, he called President Xi a friend. President Xi did not call Trump a friend, by the way. So if you remember when President Xi meets Putin, he always refers to him as a good friend and, and a very, very dear friend. I think along those lines, he refers to Putin very, very well, very, very good friends, basically. He didn't call Trump a friend. Only Trump is calling Xi a friend. But everyone knows Trump is lying. Trump called him a great leader. If you notice, President Xi did not call Trump a great leader. President Xi always, he's always careful with his words. He not once said that Trump was a great leader. And President Trump called him an amazing man. I think this is the language a school kid would use. Again, President Xi never called Trump an amazing man. And President Trump says he promised a big fat hug. That was so funny. Um, you're not going to see President Xi hugging President Trump, like Modi does his hugs or that Japanese Prime Minister does her hugs. You're not going to see President Xi hugging anyone, to be honest. And so he says here, no concessions, no wins, no leverage. Exactly. The United States has got no leverage whatsoever. When when Trump first went to China 10 years ago, back then United States had a lot of leverage, guys. Back then, you know, China was dependent on US technology, like Huawei was dependent on US technology, and nearly all the companies in China were using semiconductors only bought from US and a lot of other important technologies as well. So China was very, very dependent on American technology. And a decouple 10 years ago would have been a disaster for China. And because of Trump's trade war, China realized they have to be self-sufficient. So it took them 10 years and they finally done it. And now, after they've become self-sufficient, Trump has realized he's got no cards to play with. He cannot contain China anymore. He's got nothing to play with. So he's absolutely got no cards. And I think Trump is a bit shocked from his first trip compared to his trip now. He's absolutely shocked how fast or how far China has come. And again, it says here Trump looks desperate, he looks weak. He tried his funny hand movements, shaking hand movements. I don't know if you notice when Trump shakes people's hands, he uses this funny trick. It's really childish, by the way. A childish trick. He tries to pull the hand into his body, and he plays like a tug. He plays like a tug of war with the hand when he's shaking. He's very, very childish, guys. Very childish. And he was doing that, and he looks very, very desperate throughout the trip. And President Xi was direct, like I said. He talked to him about Taiwan. He mentioned red lines there. He talked about Iran. He talked about obviously US being a declining power. He never said that to any US president before. This is the first time, and this is the first time any leader in the world is saying this to Trump in his face, by the way. No other leader would say this in Trump's face. No other leader would dare to. There was also like some incident in there were some American security guards trying to go inside the palace with guns, and the Chinese security stopped them. And the American security guy was like, "We carry guns everywhere where we go." And the Chinese security said to him, "Well, this isn't the Wild West. This isn't Texas, by the way," or something along those lines. And they had a minor altercation. and some swear words were being thrown, some F words were being thrown. This was filmed, by the way. So there was some, obviously some altercations happening. The big business leaders, apparently, some of them have made some wins, like Boeing. Boeing managed to get like 200 airplanes, I believe. Let's just see. So I think Trump here mentioned that Boeing will get 200 airplanes. But I don't really mind, to be honest, because end of the day, guys, even Airbus, you cannot trust Airbus. Only a few days ago, the one of the executives in Airbus admitted that Airbus has got a kill switch, which means they can remotely shut down any Airbus they've sold to China remotely. So all those Airbus planes can be, shut down or triggered, switched off, even in the middle of a flight. So it's very, very dangerous to have Western technology. But the C919 that China has, that's still going to take time because it takes time to make these planes. So, you know, even with full capacity, it's going to take at least 10, 20 years to have enough planes to replace, Boeing or Airbus. So right now, China needs planes. So they can either get it from Airbus or they can either get it from Boeing. And, they cannot trust Airbus either. So they might as well just buy some Boeing and buy some Airbus, let them fight with each other. But it's not a big deal end of the day. This is something China will do just to give Trump a bit of a face saving exercise. They also agreed to buy some oil and gas, which is fine from United States. I mean, they need oil and gas, especially in this climate, and obviously it will make the Americans happy. And they also agreed to buy some extra soybeans, which is fine. And I believe they might be using some Nvidia chips. Not the biggest companies, but I think some smaller companies might use the Nvidia chips. It will be useful for them. For example, if there's a new DeepSeek company, AI company, and is using the latest Nvidia chips, then that company will have an advantage. So I don't, you know, at the end of the day, all of this is just face saving exercise to give Trump feel that he's won, he's made some good progress, and I think China should give him that. They also gave him a grand tour of China as well. So this is what China does. They throw banquets, they throw tours, they make you feel special. It's all part of Chinese diplomacy, 5,000-year diplomacy. This is what they've been doing to every single leader, not just Trump. Any leader that goes to China gets the same treatment. No leader is above any other leader. So what else did I want to talk about? Oh yeah, so Trump apparently this is Trump's first time drinking alcohol in China. No, Trump said that he doesn't drink alcohol in the United States because his brother died of alcohol poisoning, and um, and there he is drinking alcohol in China. A lot of people are saying he's lying because he also said he doesn't or he doesn't rape. You know what I'm trying to say, guys? RAP. We can finish the last word. He also says he doesn't do that, but everyone knows he does. So you cannot really take uh, anything he says face value. And that's it, guys. Let me know what you guys think, and don't forget, go to my new channel, guys. The link is in my description. Make sure you watch all the videos, and I'll have a part two of this video on that channel by tomorrow. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.